You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're parroting our lines in FAB Facts.
We're seeing the belly of the big white one in the Randomiser.
And we're joined by my Space Precinct co-star, Gerry Martin.
Oh, that's all coming up in Pod 173.
Of the Spacey Space Gerry Anderson podcast.
Not as cat.
1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Gosh, a Space Precinct themed Gerry Anderson podcast. How lucky we all are.
About time.
Well,
it's about time too. People have been clamouring for it, haven't they? Crying out for it, knocking on the door, banging on the windows.
Yeah, all those things they have been. And also, I mean, they'll all be fed up of Thunderbirds after Thunderbirds Day last week, I would think, by now. So,
that's right.
Space Precinct's the way to go. Anyway, look, it's not just Space Precinct and Thunderbirds that we cover on this, the Gerry Anderson podcast, with me, Richard James, and him. No, I'm not Richard James. With me, Jamie Anderson, and him.
Go on, you be Richard James, just for a week.
I'm not sure I could live up to that, Richard. I don't know what's going on here. It's been a very long day already. No, I'm actually Jamie Anderson, despite that little slip up there. And him over there, that is...
Yeah, I'm Richard James. And him over there.
Yeah, now, what's he... He's carving little figures. Hang on, wait, let me just go and see.
What?
1 second, Richard. I'm just going to go and check all this.
Yeah, all right. What is he up to? Oh, don't get too close.
Oh, no, look.
Hey?
You're not going to believe this. He's actually creating little miniature 4-inch high sculptures of you, me, and him in balsa wood.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure about my nose. And he's made my ears look quite big.
Well, he hasn't finished chiselling it down yet. But anyway, look, let's leave Chris to his work, because he's got to finish those three figures in time to do the randomizer at the end of this podcast, where he randomly watches a random episode of a random Gerry Anderson show and comments on it. What else can listeners, also known as Podsterons, expect from this here episode of the Gerry Anderson podcast?
Not only can they expect, but look forward to. Because I would suggest this is the finest place to come if you're a Gerry Anderson fan or have any interest in TV, sci-fi, even TV production, but especially the works of Gerry Anderson, because we'll be celebrating his legacy and bringing you newsy news. As the podcast continues, we've got Fab Facts in just a moment. We've got news from the Gerry Anderson universe. We've got Jamie's interview with Space Precinct and, I think, other Gerry Anderson series star Gerry Martin.
You said that so dismissively, and other Gerry Anderson.
Well, apparently there are others. We've got the Randomiser, of course, and we'll be hearing from our lovely Podsterons who've been emailing us. You know the address by now, podcast@gerryanderson.com. They've been posting on our YouTube channel and also in our Facebook group, so we'll be hearing from them a little later on. And I think that's about it, isn't it?
Is it? I mean, that's probably enough. We've had a very busy few weeks, haven't we? As you can tell by me, my case of mistaken self-identity.
Yes, well, it happens.
I'll try not to do that again. It's never happened before in a previous 172 podcasts here, so I don't know what's going on now. Oh, dear. Anyway, should we do a Fab Fact?
What? Have you got one?
I might do, and that might recenter me and get me more feeling myself again. So, okay, here we go for some Fab Fact.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Oh, yes. It's Richard James's favourite part of the show, because obviously I am Richard James and this is my favourite.
Okay.
Well, I have a book of Fab Facts. I flick through the book. The other Richard James, the real Richard James, shouts Fab. That stops me flicking, and then I read you out a random fact from that page. Oh, dear. This has started very well, hasn't it? Are you ready with your Fab, Richard?
Born ready.
Okay. I'm about 70% ready with my book, so here we go.
Fab! What now?
Well, it's chapter 13 and it's page 95.
Okay.
Which can mean something about
anything.
Directors. No, let's go in here.
Narrow it down.
So, a few months ago, I'm sure you will remember that we discussed the filming of the Space 1999 episode Space Brain, and the submersion by foam of director Charles Crichton. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
Because he said a rude thing, didn't he, when he fell over?
He did.
Yeah, anyway, we won't go into that. But today's Fab Fact concerns another episode that he directed. In fact, the second episode of the entire series, Matter of Life and Death.
Okay, yeah.
For those who need a reminder, this is the one where the Alphans are preparing to investigate a new planet when Dr. Russell's long-dead husband, Lee, played by Richard Johnson, turns up and tells them not to, but they ignore him and go down anyway.
Yeah.
Upon arriving on the planet, Koenig and Helena meet its seemingly only indigenous form of life, some parrots.
Oh, yes.
Now, obviously, these parrots were hired from some kind of animal performer rental service so that they could appear on the show. However, once they were placed on the alien planet set and the cameras rolled, one of them was revealed to be a very quick study because it went on to ruin take after take by calling cut in a perfect imitation of director Charles Crichton's distinctive voice.
Great.
Now, possibly, this parrot was a budding director himself, and maybe he'd spotted some legitimate problem with the scene. But obviously, you can only have one director, and that was Charles Crichton. So, unfortunately, this particular parrot had to be cut from the production.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Well, it was just dismissed. Asked to leave. Nothing serious. Now, we should point out that this naughty parrot is not typical of many hard-working actor parrots in the British film industry. Right. For example, the late, great Diana Rigg once owned a parrot named Chrome, with whom she used to practice her lines for various projects. Unfortunately, she eventually had to get rid of Chrome, partly because her career meant she couldn't spend as much time with him as she needed, and partly because, having rehearsed the script for On Her Majesty's Secret Service with him, he then took to reciting lines from the film to any visitors to their house. Not ideal when he spilled the beans on certain plot twists the producers would rather have kept secret.
Yeah.
So, Diana gave Chrome to her Avengers stunt double, Sid Child. And a few years later, Sid stunt doubled for a pre-Maya Catherine Schell in Return of the Pink Panther.
Yeah.
Word got around that Sid owned a parrot, and this eventually landed Chrome the role of a naughty parrot in the sequel, The Pink Panther Strikes Again. So, this is going somewhere. Having shared the big screen with Peter Sellers, where was Chrome going to go next?
Well, I can't wait.
Well, that's right, Richard James, you've guessed it, into the James Bond films. Friend of the podcast and future Space Precinct director John Glenn cast Chrome the Parrot as Max the Parrot in For Your Eyes Only. He's the one that chats up Margaret Thatcher at the end of the film. You know the one?
Yeah.
John was evidently so impressed by his performance that he hired him again in 1987 for The Living Daylights. Is it 1st of April today? Where he played the parrot in the kitchen. In fact,
but listen, he's quite limited though. He only seems to play parrots.
Yes, he's not like you, where you can play cigarettes and aliens and humans and Knights of the Round Table. Anyway, the very first shot filmed by the first unit on the first day of shooting for The Living Daylights was a close-up of Chrome the Parrot.
No.
So clearly, the animal acting industry of the 1970s and 80s included some professionally trained thespian parrots like Chrome. Yeah. But unfortunately, Space 1999 was not to be blessed with his talents, although Sid Child would later be Catherine Schell's stunt double again during the second season of Space 1999, so maybe a role could have been found for Chrome, although he sounds like he was more interested in doing movies than television.
Right, he'd moved on, do you think, in his career?
Yes, I think he had. I mean, I thought you were just doing a parrot impression there. What?
What?
Yeah, it's...
okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the strangest Fab Facts I think we've had. Sorry, what was the connection again?
It was the naughty parrot up front.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good, I like it.
Imitated Charles Crichton. So...
that's right.
So I guess, Podsterons, the question is, do you have a parrot that can imitate an Anderson actor or crew member perfectly? We'd love to know and hear a recording. Please do send that to podcast@gerryanderson.com.
The parrot spoiling the end of On Her Majesty's Secret Service to any visitors that happen to come around. She dies at the end. She dies at the end.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
Spoilers. Sorry.
Anyway, I'm sure they were really irritated by that parrot shouting "cut" because after the first couple of times, it just wouldn't be funny because they had scheduled to keep to, and it was costing them money, and so maybe it was. I was really hoping that it was going to be Chrome, the same parrot.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, that's right. That would have been something. But
sadly, seems like that wasn't to be.
Sadly not.
Anyway, that's an unusual fact, isn't it?
It certainly is, yes. Can't wait to see the comments underneath this one.
Yeah, I have a feeling they'll be rather unusual. Anyway, if you've got any other thoughts of birds appearing in Gerry Anderson shows, or any others for that matter, then do please comment wherever you find this, or drop us an email to podcast@gerryanderson.com, and I look forward to hearing your various birds and their ornithological impressions of Anderson-related actors and crew members. Anyway, I think we should probably leave this because it's so weird. I feel like I've slipped into the Twilight Zone. So, rather weirdly, that's definitely the end of this week's Parrot Fact.
Oh, no!
There's no
honestly,
way I could have impersonated a parrot just like you there, Richard James.
That is ridiculous. I mean, that's, 173 pods it took us to get to this point?
Yeah, and that actually was the sound of the barrel being scraped, so we hope you enjoyed that.
That's good. No, love it. I think that's definitely my favourite. Well done, Jamie. Now, talking about people emailing in, you'll be relieved to hear that people have been doing just that over the last week or so to podcast@gerryanderson.com. Would you like to hear some ease?
Please, yes.
Peter Durnan got in touch to say, I would suggest many fellow Podsterons, would pay serious money to a charity of his choice to see Jamie in a Joe 90 cosplay, please. Maybe at the next Fab Live? Come on, Richard, make it happen. Best regards, Peter Durnan. What do you reckon, Jamie?
Unfortunately, I'm washing my hair for whatever date that was, so I won't be available to do a Joe 90 cosplay. I mean, it's a great idea. I'm not really the right build for it either.
Okay, Terry got in touch to say, I always like to help others if I can, and you have helped me stay sane in this time of need, and I always repay those who help me with my puzzles and other ways. But he says, I've also missed pod 170, but I hope to find it.
Well, it's around, same as the rest of them.
It's around somewhere. I'm sure I left it somewhere. Also, he says, did you know that every American sci-fi film made since the 1970s, like all of the Star Wars films, Buck Rogers films and TV shows, Flash Gordon, to name just 100th of them, could never have been made if it wasn't for the skill and dedication of one man who dedicated his life to his work. I mean, of course, the one and only Gerry Anderson, the man who launched the most sophisticated puppet shows in the world, says Terry. Incidentally, Brian Blessed will be here in Hereford in a few weeks. Yes, I've got my seat booked. That's from Terry. Well, I hope you don't sit too near the front, Terry.
Yeah, you could probably sit somewhere close to the back. It's probably safer.
You could probably stand outside the theatre, to be honest. Scott Bye says, hello, Jamie, Richard and Chris.
Hello.
Which is nice. He says, one of my favourite episodes from Thunderbirds is City of Fire, with my favourite scenes being fire and rescue units responding and evacuating, Firefly leaving Thunderbird 2, reusing music from Pit of Peril, and the Mole proceeding to corridor D50 position and drilling underground with the Thunderbird 4 theme. My question is this. Do any of the Century 21 team recount the making of this episode? I would assume with all those fires and smoke, it would have been a health and safety issue. Keep up the good work. Kind regards, Scott Bye.
Well, I don't think health and safety came into it back then, really, did it? I mean, they blew out the back of the studio at one point, and the place was full of, black rubber dust, smoke, and all sorts of stuff. So.
Yes.
And also, I think, some of the team definitely recall fairly specific models and sequences and moments, but generally speaking, you're talking about 1 to 3 weeks of work 56 years ago.
True.
So if someone said to you, do you remember that 3 weeks of work you did 56 years ago? You might go, vaguely.
Yeah. What? Yeah, that's right, yes. Yes, true. And even come up with a false memory as well.
Potentially, that does happen a lot. So,
particularly, there were a lot of explosions and a lot of models involved in the making of Thunderbirds. So I should think narrowing it down is sometimes quite difficult.
Yeah, it probably is, understandably.
Yeah. Hi, says Gary O'Brien.
Hi, Gary.
I stumbled across your recent YouTube video about the disappearance of Barry Morse's character from Season 2 of Space 1999.
Oh, yes.
He said, I thought you might be interested to learn that his son, Hayward Morse, stars in a Star Trek Next Generation fan film that I directed.
Oh.
And he did, it's true. So if you head on over to YouTube and just type in Chance Encounter, Star Trek fan film, something like that, directed by Gary O'Brien, and it does indeed star Hayward Morse. It's really well made, and gosh, he's the spitting image of his father, which is lovely. Yeah, it's very sweet. Worth a look.
Go have a look.
And finally for now, Dean Harrison says, "Hi, Jamie and Richard.
Hello,
Not so much
Dean.
a guest star crossover, but a possible deleted scene from Season 2, where Brian Blessed, playing Mentor, commenting on Barry Morse's absence from the show, was heard to proclaim, 'Bergman's alive!' Cheers, Dean Harris." There we are. I mean, could have happened. Could have happened.
Could have happened. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, all for now. Do send in your emails. Try and make them a little more serious. Let's have some really weighty, worthy emails. Perhaps about the sort of cultural phenomenon and the legacy that these shows have left behind. I'd like a 12,000-word treatise on the social mores of the time compared to our more, perhaps, lax liberal social attitudes of today. Please, and I'll read it all out next week.
Fantastic request. And that'll give me a week off, I suspect, if you read that whole thing. So
Yeah,
please do go ahead with that. Now, you mentioned the cultural impact. We're going to be touching that in the news very shortly. Unless there's anything else you would like to bridge that gap with, then I suggest we head immediately to the Gerry Anderson news.
Here it comes!
Yes, it is the Gerry Anderson
Newsy news.
Oh, that was beautifully synchronous.
Yeah.
Goodness me. Now, lots of things... Yes, you're right. Lots of things have been happening. And I think we should probably start with a bit of a recap of all the stuff that happened for Thunderbirds Day last week.
Yes!
Well, first of all, I think we should say, have you listened to 4 Hours to Eternity, the Thunderbirds audiobook, read and I should say performed, in fact, by the one and only Nicholas Briggs. It was our free story that we put out for you straight from a 1968 TV21 annual. It's a great little story. It feels so Thunderbirds-esque, and I think Nick does a fantastic job performing it. Nick, thank you so much for that contribution. If you enjoyed it, do pop along to Twitter and thank him for his fine work on it. He's at Briggs Nicholas over there. Or comment below wherever you find this, or send us an email and we'll pass on your thanks. I suppose a couple of exciting things were talked about, though.
Just one or two.
Yeah. So we obviously had the, well, let's start with the concert, shall we? I mean, that's pretty blooming exciting. I had teased a few weeks ago that the 16th of April next year would bring something rather special, and indeed it will be. So that is the Gerry Anderson concert called Stand By for Action.
Fantastic.
I'm afraid it's now by law that can only be said in that exact way. So
I see.
Please
Fair
don't
enough.
say it limply. You must always say, Stand By for Action.
Yeah, just like that.
So Stand By for Action is coming for the Birmingham Symphony Hall next year. That's April the 16th, 2022, as part of our kind of celebration few days of all things Anderson leading on from Gerry Anderson Day on the 14th of April. It'll feature all your favourite themes and some incidental music, a full orchestra. It'll be absolutely gorgeous, and we're going to have a great night there, and I look forward to seeing as many of you there as possible. Now, you can pre-order tickets from, I believe, the end of this week. So from the 7th of October, if you go to the Birmingham Symphony Hall's website, to their box office, go on to the Stand By for Action pre-sale, and you can get in there using the password Gerry 2022. So all capitals, GERRY 2022, and then you can pre-order your tickets 24 hours in advance of them going on general sale, and that's a special treat to you because you're a lovely Podsteron. And we want to give you the best chance possible of making it to the concert, because it's going to be a very special evening.
Yeah, isn't it?
More on that in due course. Also, we had a few bits and pieces released, some rather cool Thunderbirds Day t-shirts, which we're going to keep on sale, I think, because they are so cool.
Yeah, good.
Brains Parker and a Penelope t-shirt as part of a new range. I think they're going to look pretty cool, so they're going to stay for a while. We announced a new range of handmade screen prints from John Patrick Reynolds, which are absolutely gorgeous, the first of which is a Scott Tracy image, which has just gone on sale. And, of course, Peril in Peru, the new Thunderbirds audiobook.
Yes.
Starring John Coleshaw and Justin T. Lee, Wayne Forrester, Joe Jameson, Genevieve Gaunt, and Leon Brophy. And I feel like I've missed somebody out, but hopefully I haven't, because I'm rubbish. Directed by Sam Clemens once again. Gorgeous cover art by Marcus Stamps. Yes, there's so much good stuff out right now for fans of Anderson stuff, and so much stuff coming down the line. If you're a cyclist, you may also have noticed FAB, that's HUUB, are doing a fantastic range of Thunderbird cycling tops, long and short sleeve. They are pretty stunning.
Are they?
I almost want to take up cycling for it, but yes, if you are a cyclist, if you are a mammal, that's a middle-aged man in lycra.
Yes,
but I suppose you can also be a mawel.
Yes.
Or any aged person in lycra.
Yes.
An
but the acronym's not quite so cool.
No. So you can grab those from the Gerry Anderson store, and if we're out of stock, then you can go directly to FAB Cycling, HUUB.
Nice. What do they look like? Are they sort of blue and a sash and all that? Or
No, there's no such. They're vehicle.
It's a logo.
They're vehicle related. So it looks like you are Thunderbird 2 or you are Thunderbird 1. That's the idea.
Perfect.
So they're rather lovely.
Nice.
So you can get 1, 2, and 4 right now.
Nice.
And finally, Tech Talk Series 3 is here. You may have seen the opening episode of The Mole, launched last week.
Yep.
Well, from this Saturday and for every Saturday for the next 9 weeks, you can enjoy a load more episodes of Tech Talk, all hosted by the lovely John Coleshaw playing Jeff Tracy. And you get Jeff talking you through a load of international rescue and other vehicles from the Gerry Anderson universe. Goodness me. And those are free! Totally free for you to enjoy, just like 4 Hours to Eternity, the Thunderbird story. Anyway, look, there's probably more news. There's so much stuff going on. Forgive me if we've forgotten something. I mean, remember, this is the person who thought he was Richard James earlier on.
That's true.
I'm amazed that I've given you any of that.
Yeah,
So for now,
we've got this far, really.
For now, I think that is the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. Gerry Anderson News. That's a slight change, isn't it?
Were you going to I thought you were thinking, how can I say? No, I'll just go for Gerry Anderson News.
No, I'll just go for it.
Nice.
I mean, it's, we often say it, but this is brand new Gerry Anderson stuff, isn't it? Happening right now. Who would have thought? I know that it's they're adaptations of the books and so on, but they feel like new Thunderbirds adventures, don't they?
They really do.
That's the great thing about all these adaptations. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And many more to come, which is very exciting.
Yes.
And there's more Stingray, there's more Thunderbirds, stuff is being recorded all the time. And as we've said before, things can be slow in development and it takes a while for things to get into production, but stuff is going on in the background.
That's right.
Don't forget to stand by for action.
Oh, God, it did it again. Oh. Yeah, right. Just next time a warning might be quite useful. Sorry.
That's like when you do a quick fire 5. Yeah, thanks. All that warning I get.
Talking of which.
Oh, no.
No, it's all right. Anyway, but let's head on over to our Facebook page, shall we? Or our group, rather.
Yes.
Facebook.com/groups/Podsterons, where people have been posting all sorts of stuff, like Martin Wickham, who says, I just wanted to share with you my scratch-built Thunderbird 2 launch bay. I've just built this for a friend to display his giant Thunderbird 2 model. Not 100% screen accurate, but as close as I could get. And he posted some lovely pictures there. Well done, Martin. Looks fantastic. Paul Hyder posted, I was watching Pit of Peril yesterday and I noticed that the mole's side caterpillar tracks seem to be going in the wrong direction if they're meant to shunt the mole downwards. Similarly, when the mole was retracted, they were again going in the wrong direction, though this may have just been reversed film from the mole's entry. Is this a known thing? Am I wrong?
I don't know if it's a known thing, and I don't know if you're wrong, but the reversed footage thing does seem to make sense, potentially.
It does. You can understand that, can't you, really?
I think we need to forensically analyse it or bring in an expert. Unfortunately, Chris Dale is still rather busy with his balsa wood. I think he's got himself a splinter there, in fact. Didn't he get splinters from balsa wood, though, anyway?
Well, he's managed it. He's got a pair of tweezers, though. So
it'll be all right. But maybe Chris will answer that for you at another juncture.
Yeah. Ian Clark posted, wish me luck. I'm about to watch that episode of The Protectors.
Oh.
I think we know what he means.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Well, it's not my fault, but I'm still sorry.
No, true. He chose to watch it. Yeah. John McDonald says, hi, Podsterons. Just a short appreciation for Space Precinct Revisited, the audio from Anderson Entertainment and Big Finish. 4 lovely short stories written and read by the fabulous Richard James.
Oh, thank you very much. That's me. Really glad to enjoy.
No, I think he means the real Richard James.
Oh, sorry.
He says, I've not seen Space P in its entirety yet. That feels like an entirely different show, doesn't it? But I feel I've come to know it well through a combination of reading Richard's memoir about his time on sets on the series, as well as regularly listening to Chris's thoughts on the Randomiser and watching the YouTube episodes that are available. Richard's adaptation of the original pilot script, which was never filmed, is another great way into the series for the uninitiated. This excellent presentation presentation of Space Precinct Revisited expands the original Space Precinct universe by giving some slightly lesser characters a bigger role to play, such as Slow-Mo and Brogan's wife and daughter. I really enjoyed listening to these stories, and I highly recommend this FAB audio to any Anderson fans out there who perhaps haven't given Space Precinct a try yet. Bye for now, and that's John McDonald. That's nice.
Thanks, John. Yeah, that's a lovely thing. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you are a very fine writer, as we know, James, and a very fine reader and a very fine gentleman.
I mean,
so I'm very glad.
Yeah, Miles Parrish posted, it's 5 out of 5 for 5-star 5, which I just finished reading 5 minutes ago. He says, I know the plan was live action, but in my mind's eye, I couldn't help picturing a mix of 1970s, 80s anime series like Star Blazers and Astro Boy, which I think is a good point.
Interesting.
Yeah, I could see that as well. Yeah. Martin Smith posted a picture of his Space 1999 Christmas jumper and his Space 1999 Big Finish audio set, saying, the postman delivers twice, thanks to everyone at Gerry Anderson stores. Ordered Friday, delivered today. A sterling service. As always, the jumper looks even better in the flesh. Thanks again.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, lovely. Have you got yours yet? Let us know.
I haven't got mine yet.
You haven't?
No.
Oh.
I need to sort that out, don't I? Oh, dear.
Oh, I'm just going to wear the one I got 3 years ago. Martin Bontiff says, another great podcast, guys. The podcast is a nice antidote to work on a Monday morning, especially after returning after a week off. Add to that the Randomiser, picking my favourite Anderson show. I'm a fan of Season 2, Chris Dale.
Oh,
I'm assuming he's... It must be Season 2, Space 1999,
yes, that was from
rather than Season 2 of Chris Dale. Is there a Season 2?
Well, where an American producer comes in and changes him up for no reason and makes it a little bit more sort of campy and silly and has him darting around with a rubber monster.
Exactly.
He is a
I think we're well into Season 2 already by the sounds of that. Steve Rogers, his polls have continued on our Facebook group. He recently posted the results of Chris Dale's convention cosplay poll, according to our lovely listeners. In third place, Rick O'Shea. In second place, the Duchess of Royston. But in first place, I'm afraid, it's Torchy the Battery Boy.
Oh, fair.
Yeah,
I should just give a quick shout out to Jack Knoll, friend of the show.
Ah, yes.
Lovely Jack. Do you remember years ago at Andercon 2015, he cosplayed as Torchy?
I don't remember that.
And
really?
I think his lovely wife cosplayed as Twizzle. And it was absolutely fantastic and deserves a special mention even now, all these years later. Quite terrifying.
Yes, perhaps I blanked it from my memory. That's why
I think many of us may have done, but yes, worth a mention.
Yeah, and finally another of Steve's polls. Favourite Space Precinct character? Do you want to hear the results?
Is it in third place, Officer Orin? In second place, Officer Hubble Orin. And in first place, go on, tell me.
No, we've got in fourth place, Slow-Mo. Third place, Patrick Brogan. Second place, Hubble Orin.
Ooh.
Controversial. First place, Jane Castle, which I think is fair enough.
I'm surprised.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought Romac would have featured in the top 4. But
true, yeah, there we are. So, do head on over to our Facebook group. They're lovely people over there, and I'm sure they'd love you to join in the fun as well. A few questions to answer, and we'll let you in.
I look forward to seeing you there, because I do occasionally dip in, just to say hello.
Yeah, I know, it's nice, isn't it?
It is. They're lovely people. So thanks for keeping it all nice there, Podsterons. Richard James, would you like to hear from an old colleague of yours?
Oh, I'd love to, yeah.
Well, as you know, because you've already said it earlier on this podcast, it's Gary Martin.
Yeah, yes, it is.
You'll know Gary Martin's voice if you watch Space Precinct from Slow-Mo, but you'll also know his voice because, well, he basically does all the movie trailer announcements. Anything that begins with "in a world," Gary probably said it. But Gary worked with Dad on a number of projects over the years, starting with the Space Police pilot in 1986, where he played. Was it Evil?
Oh, yeah, the villain, yes.
No, I can't remember which one it was.
That's it.
Anyway, maybe it was Leland, but the big sort of the poop monster, people have called him.
Okay.
Because he does look a bit like a big pile of poop. Anyway, Gary also has fond memories of earlier Anderson shows and has had a long career as an actor and voice actor and continues to do so. Obviously, you'll know him as Slow-Mo, but he's done a load of movie trailers and, you'll hear why the moment he starts talking. So, without further ado, here are the many dulcet tones of Gary Martin. Stand by for action.
Oh.
Hello, my name is Gerry Martin. I'm a voice artist and actor. You probably know me as maybe the Honey Monster hey, tell them about the honey, mummy. Or maybe you want to forget that. I don't know. Many other voices like, in a world, 1 man, 2 girls, and a renegade cop, rated 18. That kind of stuff. Or, that's all, folks.
Gary, I could listen to you speak all day just in your normal speaking voice, but then when you add the other stuff in, it's just amazing. In fact, I said I was going to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you now. Mm-hmm. Where does your voice come from? I know it's, the mechanics of speaking I'm aware of, but did your folks have this amazing kind of tone pitch? When did it appear?
That's a strange one. My father is and was a singer more so. He was kind of like a rangy baritone. I think it probably all happened when my voice broke. That was probably when I was about 13. There was a girl I really liked in a choir called Julie Monk, of all names, bless her. Oh. And I kind of got my way into there by singing in the choir. And then my voice broke. And I remember the vicar said, "Can we just stop? It sounds like somebody's braces are broken." Because my voice went, oh. and it was so embarrassing. Do you remember when you used to play football and you'd go, pass the ball? And girls would laugh at you. So my voice took a little while to settle down. But yeah, I don't know where the bass side of it comes from. When I'm getting into those film trailers, it's just something I've worked on. And thank goodness it stuck with me. First film trailer was for a thing called Saturn V with Farrah Fawcett and Kirk Douglas and Ed Bishop, who didn't get credited in the film, I believe. So that was my first film trailer. I did things like Kiora, I'll be your dog, and that kind of stuff. And as I said, the Honey Monster. So it's probably practice, and just I'm lucky to. I try to keep my voice in a higher register, otherwise I get typecast. Which isn't a bad thing.
It's not bad when it's so cool. Yeah. It is a great voice, Gary. So yeah, I'm looking forward to just listening, but also chatting to you about all things Anderson. So we will get into the fact that you work with Dad later on. Mm-hmm. But normally at this point we jump in the TARDIS or whatever relevant time machine you have to hand and pop back to your childhood. So I'm really looking for your first memories of anything Anderson. Any Anderson show at all. It doesn't have to be the first thing, but perhaps the thing that sticks in your mind the most.
Definitely. Okay, do you want me you're going to ask me the question, or I'll just go?
No, go for it. Give me your earliest Anderson memories.
All right, my earliest Anderson memories. I do remember Fireball XL5. I just thought it was so cool, and I'd sit in front of the telly with a mate called Phil, and when would this have been? About 1963. I'm sure, and we would just watch these black and white fabulous shows, and Robbie the Robot was a character that I really liked as well. Yeah, and we had to sit in front of black and white TV because that's all we had. And then I remember Stingray. Yeah, I love Stingray. Yeah, and yes, we're all little boys. I think we love Marina. And then Thunderbirds, but great shows. In 1966, once again with Phil, my friend, we went to the Odeon in Hayes, Middlesex, and we saw Thunderbirds Are Go, the actual, and it was just amazing. Big screen, and I just fabulous. Happy memories, and I remember both of us got tape recorders, I think the year before, little reel-to-reel ones. Wasn't probably about a foot by 7 inches, and it had run-on batteries, and we used to just make up stories and play them to each other with these little microphones. So maybe that's an early indication that I wanted to do voices of some kind.
Yeah, it must have been. So, were those little stories any other than Thunderbirds related, or was it just anything you could think of, any messing around?
Thunderbirds, all sorts of things. That would have been also, I remember, we watched, I'm going off the track a little bit, but Doctor Who, seeing the very first episode. Yeah. And we sat there and we got, oh my goodness. And then the following week, they played it again, the same episode, and we couldn't really work out why they would do that. I found out many years later, it was when I think they were showing Kennedy's funeral. And they didn't get the viewing figures, so they decided to re-show it again. Yeah. And William Hartnell, and all of those were special things we used to watch. Loved it. Fireball XL5 and Stingray. Yes, amazing. And the songs.
Yes.
Too. Yeah.
Well, of course, especially if you had the music running in the family with your dad as a singer, I'm sure you were kind of extra aware of anything musical, right?
Well, they all sounded like pop stars. The singer was singing Aquamarina at the end of the credits, and anything can happen in the next half hour. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Which I went on to impersonate years ago, because your dad said, would I do some of the voices for the Tracy Islands?
Yes,
I also played the voice for some of the toys. I did the voice of the Mysterons and Captain Black. And a strange story. This was, we made them. They looked amazing, these stories. And you would press them and they would say, everyone will die. This is the voice of the Mysterons. I'm just trying to remember. We know you can hear us, Earthlings. And I did this, and there were 2 toys. One was a gadget you fitted on your wrist, which if you press one button, these Mysteron green rings wouldn't move, but they would just flash up on a wall. Probably great for a teenager to use in a club or so, a university student. And it would have, this is the voice of the Mysterons. And then we had a doll, which was Captain Black, and he would say, everyone will die. But the reason I'm telling this story is that they all came out on the shelves, flying off, and about a week later, 9/11 happened. And all of the toys were removed. Anything with the words die, explosion, this, that, and the other, all taken off. So Woolies, I got mine from Woolies. It's a long time ago. And they all came off the shelf. I remember being called in. I was doing voiceovers for Nickelodeon, and we recorded something like exploding onto your screens. And it was such a sensitive subject that I was called back in on 3 or 4 ads to take words like that out and replace them with something else.
Yeah. I remember there was quite a creepy advert that they did for Scarlet being rerun on the BBC, which they had to pull very quickly because it had kind of terrorist connotations.
And it was such a sensitive time. Anything even remotely in that area had to be taken off or revoiced. Yeah, strange times.
A very strange time. I think I've got a Thunderbird's keyring, sound effects keyring with your voice on, possibly.
Voice on it?
Up in my little storage thing here. So.
I better have to I was always told, Ed Bishop used to say, hang on to everything, don't open anything up, So I've still got, in one of the cupboards, a big Tracy Island. I think I played Virgil and I played the dad. Oh, God, my brain's...
You did Jeff?
Jeff, yeah, I had to do Jeff. One and a Thunderbird 3 and some other toys, and I haven't opened them up, so, hey, I know I can see...
Get them on eBay, Gary, come on.
No, that's terrible. That's... Ed said to me, when we did a pilot... of Captain Scarlet, again, a remake. And that was with, I was going to say this.
That was you, Ed Bishop, and Frankie Matthews, wasn't it?
Yes, Frankie. Is he known as, you called him Frankie, Francis Matthews, Frankie. Yeah. Did I learn some stories that day?
Well, now's the time to relay them if they're appropriate.
Francis Matthews was lovely. We all sat and had lunch, and we had all these spots on our faces because we were doing, it was all, there's not so much CGI and stuff.
Yeah, it was facial capture, wasn't it?
Facial
you were experimenting with, even in 2000, that must have been, I guess.
It was, and that was the first time I'd met Francis Matthews, and he told us how he came up with the voice and what Gerry was looking for, and I suppose you know what he based the voice on. Did he tell you?
It's now ridiculously has escaped my mind, but for anyone who doesn't know, come on.
Yeah, he based it on Cary Grant, the actor Cary Grant, Archibald Leach. So it was quite something. And he told us some other bits and bobs. And I'd worked with Ed a few times before. What a lovely man he is, I tell you. And we go off and we sometimes kind of have a coffee and a chat afterwards. And we did a bit of ADR together. He did say to me, he said, Gary, always keep your scripts. He said, I got mine under a bed. He said, and some of them are signed, some of them aren't. He said, Gerry used to suss me out sometimes when I asked him to sign one. And he said, I used to hang on to those, and you never know when you're going to need them. And as you said, get them on eBay.
Yeah, exactly.
I never really had the courage, because I thought the moment if I asked your dad to sign something, I would suddenly become not a friend. I'd become a workmate. Kind of, I was detached, so I didn't ever ask for autographs.
Never?
I wish I had, but I was just a pleasure with working with him was enough at the time, and he liked what I did, and we got on well. So, yeah, happy memories, but nothing signed.
Oh, well, Shay, you missed out there. But at least, come on, working with is pretty good, right? Compared to having something signed by.
That is more important than anything. He was great. He liked what I did. I could suggest stuff, and he would say, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's put a little twist on that," and it was great. It's super. I wish I'd worked with him in the earlier days. I'd maybe done some Thunderbirds or something like that, or maybe some of the original Captain Scarlets, but I'm maybe just a bit too young.
Yeah,
I remember buying the single of Captain Scarlet. I can't remember who sang it.
By the Spectrum. The Spectrum.
Yes, was it by the Spectrum? Yeah. My goodness, and Stingrays too. I think I did have a Stingray toy. You've got me going back now. I'm really
it's amazing. The power of nostalgia.
The power of nostalgia. I'm back there in the 60s, and some great memories.
Did you ever get TV21, the comic?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that, yes, we all bought that. Would that came out before? Yes, it did come out before Look-In. Do you remember the magazine?
Yes, it was prior to Look-In.
But yes, definitely, we all got that. There was the things you watched that you were with growing up. I think we only had the 3 channels, so they did get bigger viewing figures, and
massive.
And Gerry, yes, they must have got huge figures, and I think I went along to see Thunderbird. Was it Thunderbird 6?
Yeah, that was the feature 68.
Film. That was about 1968. Yeah, I went along to see that. That was with the it was a World War I plane. I can't remember.
The Tiger Moth. The yellow Tiger Moth.
That's right. Yes, because Brains was trying to create something, and it just wasn't. He wasn't making it this time. So yes, that was 1968, was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
A little while ago. So interestingly, Gary, so a lot of people the films were not very successful against expectations. Lou Grade at the time thought they were going to be bigger than Bond.
Yes.
But people just didn't flock to the cinemas. As a kid, clearly, they're quite major memories for you.
Definitely.
So how did it compare for you from seeing it on the telly to seeing it on the big screen? Was it as exciting as you expected?
Certainly the first one in particular, because I was a little bit younger too. It was, we immersed ourselves. It was in the what was the name of the scope? CinemaScope? What?
Yeah, Technoscope.
Technoscope, not Marination Scope or something like that.
Yeah, Super Marination.
Super Marination. Yeah, and then that came up on the screen. It was like, oh my God, it was just fabulous. And I think we saw it a couple of times that week. Because in those days, as long as you didn't leave the building, you only got yourself a Cure or a hot dog, you could go back and see it again. And so I think we did on that day. We went back in again and saw it.
Cheeky.
And yes, it was a bit. I think it was something that everybody did. I saw The Italian Job about 6 times in 1 week when it came out. No, but it was fabulous. We enjoyed it. The explosions on the big screen as well. We were made up with it, and it's such a shame it didn't have that Bond impact. No. But it certainly didn't put us off.
Okay, so for you as kids, it was exciting, but I think there was a general perception that at the time there was a kind of view that, I can see that on the telly at home for free. I don't need to go to the cinema to see that.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know why that would have been. I remember the cinema being pretty full. I remember the kids screaming and shouting when they were watching it. So, I don't know how many kids' films were made at those times. I mean, Disney, obviously.
Yeah,
but not many others.
No, it's right. It's a very different sort of time. But it's kind of nice to hear from somebody who saw it and felt like it was energetic and full of happy audience members.
Totally, yes. The 60s did have some lovely memories. I suppose maybe growing up in the 60s, you kind of remember it. If you're too old, they say if you remember the 60s, then you weren't there. But we enjoyed it, and your dad did some amazing stuff. There was one series we did, which he wasn't so enamored with. It was a thing called GFI.
You were involved with GFI. I see.
I wouldn't have admitted it years ago. I don't know the ins and outs of that. Jamie, you obviously do, but I certainly know it was I probably didn't want his name put to it. The storylines weren't very good. This is nothing to do with your dad. The animation was dreadful. So we did.
I can give it some positioning for listeners who don't know. It was a show called G-Force Intergalactic and GFI, and it was. about an intergalactic rescue force who were based out of a sort of a dome on an asteroid, and it was James, who was the lead character, a few other humans, 2 aliens called Argent and Or, maybe.
Oh, you've got a better memory than me.
I think. And they had a computer and AI called George Washington.
That was me.
That was probably you. Yeah, of course it was.
And
it was a kind of rescue on an intergalactic scale thing, and they made it in Russia. They did animation in Russia. I remember Dad leaving the home with suitcases full of rubles.
Wow!
Because it was all very dodgy, and then the production collapsed, and it wasn't looking great. Anyways, it's probably a good thing that it fell to bits. So did you record? Because I know very little about the voice cast and recording stuff. You were there. Was Robbie Stevens on that cast as well?
Robbie Stevens was on that as well.
Was there?
I'd need to look that up. I should have done. That came out of the blue, that memory. There was about 5 of us. And
Did Denise Breyer do it?
I think Denise was on a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
We went up north to record it in a small studio, which I think was more like a drum studio. There was a set of drums in the corner. We get on the train to go up there. I don't know how many episodes we did. We saw a couple. I do now. You say there was a company. Oh my goodness, Phil Littler was the animation director.
That rings a bell.
And he had connections in Russia. So, so that's why. But the animation, I can imagine your father wasn't very happy with that. Whatever else was going on at the time, yes, that, I didn't, I don't think they ever released that series.
No, well, I think they only completed 2 or 3 episodes. I've got the pilot episode here.
Oh dear.
And I don't think it's ever going to see the light of day because it's a bit of a disappointment.
I thank you for that.
Not the performances, I hasten to add, Gary. Your George Washington was amazing.
I don't know about that. It was not, it was just, hey-ho, we're running that series down. Let's talk about something nice.
You can't have successes throughout, just it wouldn't be realistic.
No,
I mean, even back in the 60s, it probably may not have made it to the region you were in, but the Secret Service. So after Thunderbirds, you had Scarlet, Joe 90, and then the Secret Service. So what about those 3? Did any of those cross into your radar?
Secret Service. Was that the one with the vicar?
Yeah, Stanley Unwin.
Yeah, I didn't see many episodes of that. Maybe I was getting to a certain age where I was doing other things. I don't know. I was going to acting school as a young child as well. So but I remember seeing Joe 90.
Yep.
I do remember going on to things like Space 1999.
Yep.
Which I sometimes do voiceovers for now when they show on television. I do the promos for them and I go,
you do the Horror Channel ones?
Yes. I do AMC, yes.
Amazing.
I was working with them yesterday, in fact. And they play a lot of those. What else did I used to watch? What was the
UFO?
One? UFO. Was that with Ed Bishop?
That was Ed,
The lovely Ed. I didn't see many. I only saw a couple of those. He looked great with his blonde hair. He told me about filming that. He also told me about working on, I think, 2001. Space Odyssey. Yeah, I think it was. And having been such a big fan of that, so he would tell me stories of that. Space 1999, Tony Arthur. I got to work with, who was the leading actor in that now?
Martin Landau.
I did a film called Pinocchio. And it was I got to meet him once at one of the parties, but I was just voices in it, and I had a great time doing that. So in a roundabout way, we do bump into each other on different things, and we're like with Shane Rimmer. The story about Shane was when I first worked with him, would have been on the Space Police, and that I'm just looking at the date. Then we did that in '86.
Yep.
And I played a character called VLAN, and he played Lieutenant Brogan. And years later, when we'd started, we were doing an advert, and it was for Channel 4, and they did a few of them, and they did a few which was the Thunderbirds kind of theme, and I played the Hood, and Shane came in to play his character of Scott, I remember rightly. We did some for Captain Scarlet, and Ed Bishop came in for that, and I was the voice of the Mysterons. I think that's when I used to talk to your dad about these things, and we were doing an advert, and this was after we'd filmed The Space Police, and Shane would have known that we'd started doing Space Precinct. And he came in and I said, "Oh, Shane, we worked together on a film called Whoops Apocalypse was one thing. And we worked together on Space Police." And he knew your dad could hear. He said, "Yes, that episode bought me a nice pair of shoes." And I think your dad just kind of thought, let it go, let it ride, it doesn't matter. He wanted to obviously do the series, and that went to Ted Shackleford.
It did, Ted Shackleford, because they thought that Shane was too old. That was the feeling from the distributor of the network.
Possibly the case. It was, and he had that kind of... Yeah, he was kind of that all-American hero. Shane did have a lovely voice, though, didn't he?
Oh, gorgeous voice, yeah. And such a nice man as well.
Such a Superman. All those Bond movies that you turn on and you suddenly... His voice pops out with this or that, and a fabulous man.
Yeah, no, whenever he used to phone me, there'd be the first sort of 10, 15 seconds of the call would just be like, "Oh, Scott Tracy on the phone." Yeah. It was kind of lovely to hear. That
was his voice. That's what you got. Yeah. Yeah, tremendous.
Shame. Oh dear, sorry. Just
you're right. Do you wanna...
Yeah, it's because I've been practicing trying to do my Gary Martin voice while the interview was playing out, and I just cannot do it. I've hurt my throat.
No, it's too low.
Anyway,
Down in his boots.
Can I just say, Gary was a bit worried about gabbling on and saying too much, and I think he's brilliant. He gives plenty of insight and lovely stories and anecdotes, and this is exactly what we want, Gary. So if you enjoyed hearing from Gary, do tweet him. Instagram him. He's Gary Martin Vox, VOX. Okay. Also find out more about him at his official website, GaryMartin.com. I mean, GaryMartin.co.uk. I just automatically replaced .co.uk with .coms now, you see.
You're so international.
GaryMartin.co.uk. So go and find him and say thanks. And there's more Gary Martin for the next 2 weeks.
Great. Oh, well done you. That's fantastic, Jamie. See, you say a colleague. I don't remember meeting Gary.
No way.
I know.
Because it was all remote
never the
and
twain shall
playback.
meet. Absolutely. It's all on playback. That's right. So they would literally play Slow-Mo's voice in the studio as the model moved around and wobbled and flashed its lights.
Gosh, and that was probably Richard Gregory, wasn't it? It was operating Slow-Mo.
I should imagine so. That's right. Very different now, I think. On Doctor Who with the Daleks, I think Nick's there, isn't he? Nick Briggs is in the studio doing it live, which I think is a much better way of doing it.
Yeah. Because it activates the lights on the dome, it's the voice.
Yes, there you go.
Whereas I guess Slow-Mo didn't have that, but...
no.
Anyway, there you go. Lovely, Gary. More next week.
Great. In the meantime, you are, of course, listening to the one and only Gerry Anderson podcast. Do us a favour, Come on. Just hit the subscribe button or the follow or the like button or whichever platform you're listening to us on, Yeah, that'd be nice if you would. Also, you could leave a nice review or a rating to let us know how we're doing and exactly what you think of us. And why not copy and paste the URL to your social medias, your Twitters and your Facebooks, and let everyone know what you're listening to and they might join in too. That would be nice. Because the more the merrier.
I was going to say exactly that. It is, it's an ever-growing community of Podsterons, and we love having you along for the ride.
That's right. And talking about the community, over on YouTube, where this podcast is posted every week, of course, it is available elsewhere. Most people, I think, get it via various apps, don't they? Podcast and Podbean and Spotify and what's it called? Apple Podcasts now and all that sort of stuff. But it is on YouTube where people do post, for example, under the recent FAB Facts posting about... our Thunderbird's favourite scripts being written in a caravan, if you remember that a couple of weeks ago. Ian Dealey said, "Nice to have Richard James read the Fab Fact for a change, and a great fact too." Oh. It's nice, isn't it?
There you go. You're getting a lot of praise today, aren't you?
I like it.
Not undeservedly, but...
Well, that's very kind. Steve Gregan said, "Classic television, great memories of my childhood." Mikey Mike said, "Awesome story, guys. It just goes to show that you can find inspiration anywhere, even in an old, cold caravan." That's true.
Totally true.
Louise mentioned this. Early Fab Facts this week, she says. Exciting. There.
Sometimes we're early,
made a week.
Sometimes we're late, and we average in between on time.
Yeah. That's right. Godzilla says, "Happy birthday to Thunderbirds for its 55th anniversary. I'm French and I love this show. It's on my top 10 best series of all time."
High praise indeed.
Nice. Yeah, Cool Guy 5058 says, "Thunderbirds? Never heard of it." Fair enough.
You think he's being sarky?
Finally, that's right. Stephen Morgan. We asked where our writerly listeners did their writing, didn't we, Jamie? And Stephen says, "Well, sitting on the loo." Okay. It's a bit too much information, I think, but there we are.
It is a bit.
Yeah. Wherever you find your inspiration.
I'm just going to take it from the ridiculous to the sublime, just for a moment, if you don't mind.
Yes, I would.
Because
yes,
we haven't mentioned this, that dear friend of the podcast, Stephen Critchlow, passed away a couple of weeks ago, unexpectedly, which we haven't paid respects to.
Yes.
He was a brilliant guest, so enthusiastic about the shows, and actually we were so desperate to work with Stephen at some point.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely gutted that hasn't happened, hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
So if you want to, post a nice comment or pay your respects, do go back and listen to the Stephen Critchlow episodes of the podcast, because he was a lovely chap, and I know friends and family and colleagues will miss him dearly. So sorry to bring the tone down for a moment, the mood down.
Yeah, no, and a lovely thing happened. I don't know if you saw this online, but he had obviously given voice to many characters in various video games and so on. There was one in particular where the players decided to all be online at a particular point in this sort of fantasy world that the game took place in, and had their characters all stand in a line in tribute to Stephen, which was rather lovely. So you can find that on Twitter, and somehow you'll find it. It's a rather moving thing to have done, I think.
That is lovely. Yeah. So there you go. Right, where do we go from here, Richard James? I mean, I can see over there Chris Dale has finished whittling, and he's now...
good, right?
Oh, I wasn't expecting this.
Well, is that me?
No, but do you see what he's done? He's actually also sculpted one of those... What's it called when they have the throne that's carried? And he's got you and me...
a sedan chair. He's got a sedan chair.
Sedan chair, and Chris is in the sedan. I mean...
Oh, well, that's typical.
That is,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Typical
Randomeister, that is.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chris, they're beautiful models, but not what I was expecting at all. Anyway, look, Chris, the Randomeister, the Randomiser General, the Archbishop of Randomiser, is here to do the Randomiser, where he's got a machine called the Randomiser. He presses a button on it, it selects a random episode of a random Gerry Anderson show, and then he watches it and tells you his thoughts.
It's true.
And he'll be doing that from his sedan chair, I suppose.
I suppose he will, yes. Comfortable up there, are you?
Yeah. All right, Chris, over to you then.
Charming.
Psst! Jim! Hey, Jim! Wake up!
Well, who are you?
Oh, hi! Well, my name's Chris, and I'm not your wife, and,
What do you want?
Well, I was rather hoping to ask you to press my button today.
You're going to what?
Well, yes, you see, I've got this machine right here.
Now look here, what's that?
Oh, don't worry, it's just the randomizer. Think you can figure out how to operate it?
Well, you must depress the button on the control console.
That's it, you've got it.
I wish... I knew what this is all about.
Oh, don't worry about your wife, by the way. Marina's taken her out for a bit of a girls' night. I merely put on one of her nightgowns and got into bed with you.
God, so that explains it.
Yes, indeed. Right, let's see what we have here. Okay, well, today's episode is Terrorhawks and its first strike. Suppose I should get out of bed and watch it, really?
Stop.
Sorry?
I was just hoping to get to know you better.
Ah, well...
You certainly got a lovely voice.
Well, aren't you sweet? But still, duty calls. So, welcome back to Terrorhawks on the Randomizer, and I was just thinking there as the credits drew to a close there, how much like the Joe 90 opening theme, the opening titles and the music of Terrorhawks just makes me happy. For a lot of the other Anderson shows, you know, for Stingray and Thunderbirds or whatever, I get excited, maybe there's a bit of nostalgia in there, but for Terrorhawks, as well as the excitement and the nostalgia, it's such a happy piece of music, and a happy show for me in many ways. And anyway, we're opening with Kate re-recording Faster Than the Speed of Your Love. This was something I always found odd with Kate. I get that they had like 20 songs recorded for her, but very often you would see her in the studio re-recording yet another version of a song that we already know she's recorded before or she's performed live before, but
how was it? Yeah, well, it was
That's it for me.
They were always good to hear again. I love the songs in this show. I love the quality of the songs. This is
right for me.
15, 20 consistently good quality songs from Kate, and it's such a shame that so many of them are just
fantastic, sensational,
lost to history, unfortunately.
Yeah, but how was it for you, Stu?
Stu's having a bit of a moment there.
Great.
He's also got a lot of prop
It's been a long
prop food on his desk.
night, Stu.
A lot of sandwiches.
Night, Miss Kestrel.
And a Coke can.
Thanks.
Strategically positioned so as not to display the Coke logo directly to the camera.
By the way, Stu, I think you're pretty fantastic.
Fantastic?
Ah.
Oh, yeah, right, got it. Fantastic, yeah.
And again, we know we've had subtle hints up to this point that Stu has a bit of a fondness for Kate, and sometimes it's nice to see it reciprocated as well.
Madam, I must have closed my eyes for a moment or two.
And Hudson was asleep.
That's all right, Hudson.
Home, madam?
Where else?
So, leaving Anderbo Records after a fairly late night, and who's this following them? There's a pair of shadowy figures in a red car.
Like the donkey, Hudson. We seem to have a tail.
Indeed, madam. I have observed their presence for some time.
I think I'd better report it to Hawknest.
It's nice as well. We have a nice sort of suspicious, ominous opening. We're not starting on Mars with a bit of silliness up there.
Keeping their distance.
All right, Kate. Take it easy and drive home.
But as we'll ultimately discover, the Martians, for once in this episode, weren't actually plotting anything.
Also, don't like it. Stand by to launch Hawkwing.
10-10.
0?
Sir.
Come with me. I may need you.
You only have to say the word, and I's with you every inch of the way.
In Hawkwing? Where's he going to sit?
This is a 10-50.
Oh, okay. They've got a little Zeroid seat behind Tiger. And there's stock footage of Hawkeye in the, they call it the egg section of Hawkwing, don't they? Pretending that he's still part of the show, which of course he barely is by this point. So Hawkwing is off.
Separation in 10 seconds. Stand by. 10-10, Hawkeye.
Who are you again?
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Oh, I like Hawkeye, as many of you will probably appreciate. I never quite understood what happened with him in the second series. He's there quite prominently in the first episode of Series 2, and then this and Runaway, and I think that's it. He's gone otherwise. But again, a nice building element of mystery in this one, as Hawkwing approaches Kate's little mountain hideaway, and again, the fact that it's all taking place at night makes the effects look that much more convincing. And this is one of those episodes where, I think I may have said this before, but that as Terrorhawks developed, it got increasingly tongue-in-cheek, but there were times when that made the more serious episodes and moments work much better, and this is a prime example of that.
On the lights, sir.
No. Kate, where are you?
About a mile from the house.
Just drive straight up. We'll be waiting.
Tiger and Zero have already got there. I guess Hawkeye's gone home. Because, it's not like he could have been of any use here at all.
Tiger?
Over here. Leave the lights off.
I've just taken my clothes off and I'm kind of embarrassed.
He must have stopped at the foot of the rise.
Yep, he stopped.
Tiger. Listen.
Chopper.
An XK-20.
Ooh. Looks a lot like Colonel Johnson's helijet, actually. I suspect it's the same model, and why not? I mean, you only need it for that one shot.
It's K-20, and it's down.
Move the men in.
Oh. So the car is now signaling.
I thought I saw some movement to the right, but I can't be sure.
Who are they, Tiger?
I wish I knew.
Oh, and the house is surrounded.
All right, you Terrorhawks. You're surrounded. We're coming in.
And they are too. They're coming up in the lift. Tiger's got his gun ready. And there is, well, our pair of shadowy men from the car.
Guns. Put them down. You might hit one of these grenades. That'll make a mess. So,
This is the famous Hawk Nest. You must be Einstein. I'm General Cord. Rip to my men and my friends.
All right, General Rip Cord.
Yeah, there's the slightly serious tone of the opening has kind of been thrown out the window there.
I told them, give me 24 hours, I'll find Hawk Nest. What in Sam Hill is this?
But I like this idea that the military have been assigned to track down Hawk Nest, and Cord is so convinced that he's done it by finding Kate's mountain hideaway.
Yeah, you're not so bad.
And Cord has a bit of a fondness for...
Saw.
Not just a fondness, but an instant acceptance of what Zero is. Oh, you got a sentient robot. Oh, okay, I'm on board with that. He's a nice guy. Mention of the world president there.
The NASA representative, sure. We'll meet up there, on that excuse for a spaceship of yours.
Ooh.
You're out of your mind.
My orders are to assume command of the Terrorhawk organization as of now. We meet on Spacehawk.
So they've dragged Johnson up to Spacehawk.
My command? Oh, well, let's say someone's been put in over your head on a, hopefully, temporary basis. How temporary? Who knows? A week's a long time in the power game. Yeah.
And I do like what they did with Johnson throughout the course of the series, from, developing from a basic, just authority figure into something a bit more realistic. He's very often, although he's Tiger's superior, essentially, he finds himself on the defensive with Tiger.
I'm a hot bath man.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Oh.
Come on over here. Got something to show you.
So everyone's on Spacehawk.
Take a look out there.
And what do we have here? A fairly large and impressive spaceship.
What is it?
Big White One. Commissioned last month, the most powerful space carrier ever built.
Why wasn't I told about this?
Because it was a secret military project.
And what do you intend to do with this Big White One?
Eliminate the threat of Zelda.
Aha, there it is.
My intention to blow that alien complex and everyone in it off the face of Mars.
And it's a lovely model, this Big White One. But there we go, we are halfway through the episode. We haven't even met the Martians yet. But we are now leaving orbit.
5 fore and aft engine rooms.
And even though really all we see of this ship is the bridge, populated by 3 puppets. It's
orbit.
Yes, General.
General Cord and 2 other officers. The fact that it so completely dwarfs Spacehawk, you really do get the sense that this is a huge, huge ship with a lot of people on board. Nice soundtrack on that, those engines as well.
You there, Einstein?
I'm here.
Follow Big White One. That's if you can keep up.
Ooh.
Set a course for Mars.
And these soldier characters look quite fun, I think, because there's something about male Terrorhawks characters, by and large, their heads look quite solid and stocky, and it actually suits these soldier characters fairly well, especially as most of them have got no hair. Meanwhile, Youngstar is dealing with more important matters.
What on Mars was that?
Ooh.
I've no idea, man, grandmother.
Oh.
Someone put explosive in my granite crunchies.
Oh dear. I love that not only are we at this part of the series where Youngstar basically can't do anything without fear of being blown up or crushed by Itstar.
Well, yes, it was you, but the other you.
I also like that he's coming so completely bedraggled and he is smouldering, but also there's smoke coming out of the puppet's mouth as if that bomb went off inside his mouth.
Mother.
Which is fairly horrible, but also quite in keeping for how cruel Itstar is to Youngstar.
What do you see in your amazing crystal?
2 of Earth's comes spaceships approach.
The Terrorhawks?
One most certainly belongs to that accursed clan.
Yeah, this is just the Martians were minding their own business until Cord decided to get it into his head to go after them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been doing anything this week.
There is little doubt that they intend to attack To arms! We must defend ourselves!
Yeah! Oh, this is good stuff. Some very good stuff coming up.
Patch me through to Spacewalk.
I love this lowering and raising microphone that Cord's got right next to his chair.
Instigate a first-strike nuclear attack on the alien base on Mars.
Nuclear?
Madness! I'm gonna stop it.
Yay! Oh, he's taking... Oh, it's Hawklet. Little Hawklet. Which we saw a couple of times in the second series.
Einstein's coming aboard, sir.
Take a note, Sergeant, on how to handle a whining pinko weirdo.
Ooh. Well, it seems Cord has some things on his mind regarding Einstein.
Welcome aboard. Let me show you around a real starship.
Having said that, I do like the look of the bridge and the way the soldier characters fit into it.
Here, Einstein.
I have to say, though, the way Cord is sat on his chair, it does look a bit like he's sort of
You listening, Sergeant?
On the bog.
Hearing this?
The idea of a nuke first strike is to eliminate the enemy so it can't retaliate.
So?
They have the ability to control matter, bend time. They'll hit back, and hard.
I've met you bleeding hard.
That's a lovely point that Tiger raises there, that takes into account not only Zelda, but certain other members of her clan, these monsters that the Terrorhawks have faced over the years.
I'm asking you to call off the attack.
Negative.
Which, of course, leads into a wonderful sequence on Mars. This is possibly one of my favourite shots of the whole series coming up.
Those who will fly the Zeefs already, mein grandmother.
Because we've called in those monsters to fly the Zeefs.
Affirmative.
To defend Mars.
Mighty Shram, Lord of Felony.
Yay!
Lord Tempo, Master of Time.
Yay!
The delightfully devious furry Napoleon.
Yay!
And, young star. Stand up straight, you slovenly boy. The Earth's scum are attempting to annihilate our base, but we will retaliate in full. Good fortune, my brave Avengers.
Yeah, I love this shot of Young Star, Tempo, Yuri, and SRAM, or the four of them together on screen.
Save your thunder for the enemy.
And this, I found this on first viewing so satisfying, seeing these, well, three of the regular guest monsters on the screen together, because considering the show had like 4 or 5 guest monsters, they were never on screen together except for this episode. It was like almost like they'd never interacted. Now here we have Young Star and Yuri going out. Okay, we've seen that before. Lord Tempo teaming up with SRAM, which is a nice image considering there's not much room in the Zeef cockpit. There's not much headroom for SRAM. And also the fact that SRAM doesn't talk anymore.
Here comes the enemy.
I do particularly love, though, the Young Star Yuri team up, where Young Star would have himself believe that he is in command, and really it's just, we'll do whatever the heck Yuri feels like doing is what we're going to do.
2 interceptors destroyed. Something's locking their guns. What?
Yes, and here we have these interceptors that Big White One has sent out, looking very similar to the Vipers from the original Battlestar Galactica.
Now!
And also, that is driven home in the launch tube that we see them deployed from is basically the same tunnel that you'd see on Galactica. I believe the tube was... The model of the tube was mounted vertically, and the vehicles were then sort of dropped. The camera was positioned at the top of the launch bay, and the Vipers were just dropped to the bottom. You'd never realise that unless you'd seen pictures behind the scenes, and this is very cool. Having been blown to bits...
As a master of time, I can arrange an action replay.
Tempo and SRAM's Zeef magically reforms. I don't know how Lord Tempo manages to reconstitute himself after he's been blown to bits. You would think that once he was blown to bits, he was dead, and obviously not. But it's also very cool that just for that moment you think, oh my goodness, they've killed 2 of our regular villains. Oh no, wait, they haven't.
I like it when they can't hit back.
And it helps make the Martians seem like a credible threat for once, because they are killing these interceptor pilots. That's Youngstar has just murdered
All interceptors are destroyed.
whoever was at the controls of that interceptor.
Launch the second wing.
And Cord hasn't learnt anything. We're going to send out some more. And that one doesn't even get out of the launch tunnel before it gets blown to bits.
Call it off. Negative.
So it's lovely to not only have the Martians on the defensive for once, but actually to see them, rout their opposition so thoroughly.
We were nearly hit. Do something, Yuri.
Yeah, what's Yuri going to do? He's going to break the guns. And these guns are very similar to the ones seen on Moonbase Alpha through the second series of Space 1999.
All port side guns inoperative. You can't win this one.
There is also a statue on the side of Big White One we saw in a few shots as the Zeefs were overflying it. I'd love to know what that actually was. I'd also love to know...
Damage control reports fires in number 4 and 5 holes.
While all this is going on, where is Spacehawk?
Mars. But sir, I gave you an order.
It's like Spacehawk suddenly doesn't exist, because surely if they were anywhere nearby, they would be offering covering fire, and the Zeefs would be going after Spacehawk. But it's like, no, we've developed engine trouble on the way to Mars or something. They're nowhere to be seen.
Didn't back down.
Now Cord,
I won that football game.
Faced with overwhelming odds,
I never lost a game in my life.
He's having a complete mental breakdown.
I never backed down. I won that game.
With flashbacks to some kind of childhood trauma.
I'm assuming command, Sergeant. The General's unwell.
And it's kind of an easy way to resolve Cord. We'll just make him unstable. But for a kid's show...
Gutless wonders.
This is very strange.
Info intelligentsios all trying to put all Rip down.
He's pulled out a grenade.
I showed him. Hit him low and hard. I hit him low and hard in the guts. I won that game. I won the game. Ran in a 60-yard touchdown.
And this is consistent with other similar Anderson characters who believe...
It's a dud.
Might is right. We saw that on General Ward's desk in Avalanche. You can believe that he would have launched his first strike against the Mysterons and been absolutely flattened by their retaliation, the same way that...
Tried to fight a war he couldn't win.
That Cord has been
yes,
here.
Sir. Corset.
Because he thought he could just go in and nuke the Martians and... Oh, that final zoom in on Cord as you hear voices in his head. He's clearly completely broken.
Oh, I was magnificent.
And the fact that it's these 4 who broke him is quite impressive.
Captain, I feel the hand of Einstein in this retreat. Defense is sometimes the best form of attack.
But, Mother, we won.
This time, yes.
For once, we can claim victory.
Victory. We must defeat the accursed clone.
Oh, but for now, at least, they've caused General Ripcord temporary, possibly permanent mental disarray, and that was First Strike. Oh, that is one of the best episodes of Terrorhawks. I feel that is a very popular one among fans of the show. And I think it's not only to do with the fact that we saw 3 of the regular alien monster characters working together, which is a lovely image. It's like, why wasn't the show doing that more often? But also the serious tone of the thing right the way through, which is very unusual for this period of Terrorhawks. And to give us the, okay, General Ripcord in Big White One, it's obviously a whole Moby Dick reference thing, but the character comes in very strong, and his breakdown at the end is extremely believable. It's kind of a shame, again, that this is only 25 minutes. This is one that could have been expanded. More of what's here would have been so lovely, because it's so much good stuff here. And if you fancy watching this episode, you can do so. It's up there for free on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel.
I thought you were going to then mimic the Anderson Burr sting at the end.
No. But
excuse me.
I know, you like a bit of Terrorhawks, I know that.
Oh, I do love a bit of Terrorhawks,
Yeah,
and First Strike's a good one. So, well, not everybody will agree with that, but
of course,
any Terrorhawks is a bit of fun. I mean, I would love to know, Podsteron, have you been converted to Terrorhawks via this podcast? Have we convinced you to give it a go and you found a new love for it? Or have we convinced you to have a go and you found a new hatred for it? We'd love to know. Do email us, podcast.
Well, I'm not watching that.
podcast at gerryanderson.com with your Terrorhawks thoughts, particularly based on today's randomizer. Has that encouraged you to give it a try? Let us know. Chris will be back next week.
That's a relief.
Well, I'm not carrying him anywhere in that blooming chair, so
no.
He'll be back and with more random episodes of more Random Anderson shows. I should think that's what he normally does, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And if you would like just to hear Chris and not me and Richard, then you can head over to the Gerry Anderson Randomizer podcast, which is a podcast all of its very own, taking the randomizer 1 week at a time, all for your auditory enjoyment.
Yeah, and secretly, Podsterons. Now, Jamie doesn't know this, but you can also now download a special edition of the podcast every week with all Jamie's bits cut out. So
what's that called?
Keep an eye out for that. It's called the Richard James Podcast. It's just
nice.
me, but it's all my kind of, everything. It's our interactions, but with just your half of the conversation cut out.
Brilliant. Probably makes more sense.
It probably does, to be honest. It's a bit light on news, though.
That's fine. Nobody enjoys the news. That's all right. We'll forgive it. Anyway, look, I think we're kind of approaching the end of this, aren't we? I mean, just this episode, not the podcast in general.
Yeah, I think that'll do, yeah. The Pod 173, I think that's about right, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. In fact, sorry, I have a bit of a yawn, sorry.
Oh, gosh, off it goes.
It's nothing personal.
No.
But no, it's been a bit of a full-on few weeks. We would love it if you'd subscribe or follow the podcast or whatever your app allows you to do, and just to do us a lovely review.
Yeah, that'd be good.
In fact, I'm feeling rather generous. So if you leave us a new review on a new platform between the 1st of October and the 8th of October, screenshot it and email it into podcast@gerryanderson.com. I will pick 5 of my favourites and send you a little something special as an early Christmas gift. How's that? So leave a brand new review between the 1st and the 7th of October inclusive. Screenshot it and email it in to podcast@gerryanderson.com, and I'll pick my 5 favourites and send you something nice.
Lovely.
Is that bribery?
Yeah.
I don't think that's bribery. I think that's encouragement, isn't it?
It's rewarding, isn't it?
I didn't say that they'd have to be favourable.
No.
So,
no.
Yeah.
No, what, you're going to pick a really bad one and send them something?
If it's worthwhile and funny, then maybe, but I'm not encouraging that. Anyway, that's all we have to say, isn't it? We haven't got any more.
Yeah, that's all we have to say.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So all that leaves us to say is stand by for action. Make sure you use the code Gerry2022 to get early access to the pre-sale of the concert at the end of this week. And we'll see you next week in pod 174,000.
See you then.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
So, Richard James, what are you most excited about for the concert?
Oh, the concert. Well, obviously, comparing from the stage in my, tuxedo, my black tie.
Oh, yeah.
Being shown onto the stage by a gaggle of beauties. Obviously, being handed a plate of canapes and a glass of wine on arrival. Being looked after and generally escorted around the place. The VIP area in the bar afterwards. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. And then back in the real world, how are you feeling about it all?
Sitting in the audience with everyone else and listening to the great music of Barry Gray.
Oh, and Crispin Morel and Richard Harvey.
Fantastic.
You see?
Brilliant.
It's
there.
all of them. It's not just Barry.
That's great.
Obviously, Barry's stuff is hugely important, but
of course.
I think the whole point of this is to go, nose to tail, as they say in the
with a live orchestra.
World.
That's going to be extraordinary.
Yeah, and I'm very excited, and some very cool announcements to come as well.
Nice.
Some additional guests and material and stuff like that.
And you'll be singing, of course.
Yes,
you'll be giving us your. I wish I was a spaceman.
I'm singing the tenor part for the Secret Service, obviously.
Right.
I'm not. I'm absolutely not doing that. No, I shall be sat in the audience like everybody else, just enjoying it and letting it all wash over me.
Brilliant.
I hope lots of you Podsterons will join us there, fingers crossed. Yes. Yeah, and also, Richard, we are going to be playing Space Precinct.
Oh, wonderful.
So that'll be cool,
because I don't know if you know, but I was in that, so that'll be a special moment.
What?
Oh, yeah, I know, I don't like to talk about it.
I can't believe you didn't mention this, because we could have maybe fit you into the show somehow, but now it's just it's too late.
Oh, well, never mind. Curses.
Well.
Oh, that's great.
You go over and get over that, and I'll go and reserve your tickets.
Thanks.
And see you next week.
Yeah, see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.